All right. Okay. This is in continuation. And once again, this is part of the concept of money Bitcoin series, which has been going on. If you're just watching this for the first time, my name is Dab. And I've been doing, I think this is part of concept of money series that I have been doing. So if you do not, I think you should go back. If you're lost, you should go back and check the earlier videos and follow from there and then catch up with us. So what we have right now is Bitcoin, okay? We'll be looking at Bitcoin, diving deep now into Bitcoin, okay? I'm just going to be explaining Bitcoin on a basic level. We're not going into the technicals of it, just on a simple level what Bitcoin is. We had earlier looked at the problems of the current financial system, the fiat-based system, and how Bitcoin is an improvement, or it's showing to be an improvement on that system. So this is what you have currently. What you're looking at is the Bitcoin white paper, okay? Created by Satoshi, the alias Satoshi Nakamoto. We do not know if Satoshi is he or she or it or they, whatever. But what we know that sometime in 2009, someone used an emailing list and communicated to a few people and released this and told them, hey, this is what I'm working on, and look at the code, audit it, vet it, look at it, and see how we go from there. And after a while, I think the person went, the so-called Satoshi Nakamoto just went offline or went MIA. And till today, we haven't heard from Satoshi, or we don't know if it is a he, she, or it, or whatever. But we can say Satoshi blessed us with the Bitcoin, so I think what stirred this Bitcoin was the incident of, I think in 2008, where there was a global financial crisis, global financial meltdown, where I think big corporation banks, global banks wasted, I don't know, you can read it up. I think they wasted monies, gave bad loans and all that, paid themselves bonuses, and there was a meltdown. I mean, there were loans each, a whole lot of monies not being accounted for. And, you could just read it up. And at the end of the day, of course, the central banks had to come in to intervene in the various countries, print more money, and give to these banks, give to these corporations. They were bailing them out, and most of them still pay themselves salaries after making a whole lot of people lose money. And of course, when the government prints out money to bail people out, that money is still being taxed. Don't forget, first of all, they are printing. The printing leads to inflation, and even your printing leads to inflation. The money loses value, and at the end of the day, the government still comes and taxes some of it. So it's kind of like pushing you much down the poverty hole. Okay, so I think after that, I think in 2009, Bitcoin. Satoshi released the Bitcoin white paper. Okay, so a simple definition of Bitcoin, like I said in the last, I think when we started, I said Bitcoin is, I think, peer-to-peer e-cash or electronic cash transmitted from one person to another without a third party. Okay, the third party, which could be most likely a bank, okay, or a financial institution, whether it's Visa, MasterCard. Okay, so I think from the abstract, you could just go from the abstract, you can see a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash, which cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Yeah, that's about what we just said. So you can go through, it's just a 9-page. If you're really interested to know, you want to dive deep into Bitcoin, know what's really about, but this is the white paper, and it's just a 9-page white paper. which is easy to, simple to go through with, but at least just take your time and go. You don't, the thing with Bitcoin, you don't really need to know the intrinsics of it, how it really works underneath, as long as you understand what it does. Like most people use money today, but they do not even understand money supply, how currencies are being supplied, how they cause inflation and all that, but we use money, but most of us do not even know. So it's the same thing with Bitcoin. You don't really need to know what's underneath, but as long as you understand the basics of it, I think you're good to go. So, but for those that are interested, you can just go online and Google out the Bitcoin white paper, and you should be able to have this in PDF. You can download it and read it at your spare time, or just to go through it for those that are more curious about it. So now what's underneath, just in simple terms, I think what Bitcoin is the whole Bitcoin network, okay? In simple terms, okay, let me just, a form of, like it says, a form of e-money or e-cash, transmitted between one person to another without the needing a third party, which should be a bank or a financial institution. So simply, just by the definition alone, we have eliminated the banks, okay, and their issues, okay, and their laxities, and their outrageous transfer fees, their 7 days wait time, and so on and so forth. And so what Bitcoin really is, okay, the whole system of Bitcoin. Now, let me explain that. Now, let's say we are having a games night, okay, a games night, okay. Let's say we are 5 of us, okay, having this games night. Let's say we choose a venue for it, somebody's house, and then we go there, and then we choose, after having the meal or drinking the wine and all that, we choose to play a game. And let's say we are playing cards, okay, or in Nigeria, let's say what, okay, where each, let's say the rule of the game is we're 5. If we play and I check, everyone pays me 5 naira. If you check, if another person check, everybody owes them 5 naira and all that. So we've decided to play, but we found out we all forgot our wallets. We didn't come with our wallets. So we can now say, okay, since we didn't come with our wallets, everybody bring out a notepad and a pen. So we have 5 notepads and 5 pens. So we start playing. So once we play and I check, I win. So on our notepad, we all write, I win, double wins. Everyone writes double win, first game, double win. So everybody owes me 5 naira or $5, okay? Now the next game, maybe Mary wins. So everyone goes down to their notepad and write Mary wins. So everyone owes Mary, just so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, you see, what we'll be having is 5 ledgers or 5 records, okay? 5 records of what has been going on, okay? Of monies owed or transactions amongst us, okay? But everyone is going to have a copy of what transpired, okay? As it contains the who is owing who or who won, So everyone has a record. So at this point, okay, if there's a bad player, okay, somebody tries to cheat, among the 5 of us, someone tries to cheat. Now, by erasing or altering the records, his own or her own record. Now, erasing or altering one record, which is the person's own record, won't be enough. Okay, the person will have to alter the records with the other 4 persons, and that will be difficult. Okay, you can convince one person. How are you going to convince 2, 3, 4, okay, and 5 people to do the same? So you begin to understand, like a network, okay, that's where the blockchain comes in. Okay, that's where the blockchain comes in. Okay, if you check if we go to our usual bank, your bank records, okay, when you make a transaction on the bank, it is a ledger, okay? The bank produces a ledger where you see your account, your debit, your credit. Now what the bank does, because the bank is the middleman, okay, both of us, let me see, you and somebody transacts, okay? Now the bank is the middleman. So only the bank has that ledger, has the record of that transaction, Okay, if you have an issue with the person, you have to go to the bank, bring your statement, but with blockchain, okay, every participant has a record of the ledger. Every participant has a record of the ledger. So it brings about transparency. Okay, it brings about transparency, it brings about immutability. That is, nobody can change records. Okay, for you to change record, you have to convince every player, every participant in the network. Okay, so now of the five of us, let's go back to the game now. The five of us are coming together to play is what we call a network. Okay, now we are recording the games. The record of the games is what we call the ledger. Okay, now blockchain, when we say blockchain, blockchain is a distributed ledger, which is distributed among the five of us. Are we getting it now? So that's the blockchain, a distributed ledger. Okay, five of us have the record, that's a distributed ledger. Okay, so now how does Bitcoin come in now? Okay, so now the blockchain, okay, is how Bitcoin works. Okay, is the mechanism how Bitcoin works. Now, as the Bitcoin network is being powered, it's running, okay? You have computers, okay, that are all over the world. Now, the five of us are now the computers. But now, rather than five of us, we are like 1 million computers everywhere in different, situated in different parts of the world, okay? Now, each computer is called a node, but forget the node part, just everybody, computer. Okay, now these computers are interacting within themselves, okay, and they are keeping records of what is happening on the network, okay. Now, within the network, we are transferring Bitcoin from one person to another. We are moving Bitcoin from one person to another, okay. In other words, we are making transactions, transferring Bitcoin from one person to another or from one account to another. So these computers are keeping records of these transactions. Okay, they are keeping records, so nobody can change what happened at one particular time. Now, anytime there's a transaction, they timestamp that transaction. So you see the transaction, you know where the Bitcoin moved from where to where it moved. Okay, and at what time. This is the ledger, this is the record, and every computer participating in the network has that record. Okay, now, how did it become a chain? You heard the block. Now, the Bitcoin network, okay, this is how it works, okay. Now, you have transaction, Bitcoin transaction. Bitcoin transaction is a Bitcoin moving from one wallet or one handle to another, okay. Now, every 10 minutes, okay, transactions are grouped. Every 10 minutes, transactions are grouped. In a group, they are grouped together. Now, that grouping is what we call a block. So in other words, every 10 minutes, a new block is formed. Okay, now, for a new block to be formed, once a new block is formed, one of the computers in the network will take charge of that block, will be in charge of that block. Okay, now do not get lost in the technicalities of one of the computers will take charge of that block, okay, every 10 minutes. Now, that computer will be in charge of putting transactions, recording, grouping those transactions in that block every 10 minutes. So in order for that block to be produced, okay, in order to take charge of a block produced every 10 minutes, these computers, okay, have to fight. They have to not really fight, they have to compete to answer questions or to solve a problem. Now, that process of them competing, who's the fastest to solve a problem, is what we call proof of work. Okay, is what we call proof of work. Okay, and that's the mechanism underneath the Bitcoin blockchain. Okay, it is a proof of work mechanism. So every 10 minutes, transactions are grouped, thereby forming a block. Okay, so to form a block, for a computer to be in charge of a block, it has to solve a task. It has to solve a task. Now, if it succeeds in solving the task first, remember there are so many computers in the network. So one computer has to struggle to be the first to solve that task. Once it solves that task, in a split of seconds, a block, it is in charge of the next block. Every 10 minutes, a new block is produced. Okay? Now, as part of the reward for solving the task, okay, new bitcoins are mined or are issued by the mechanism, by the code to this block producer, which is this network that solves the question. Okay, new bitcoins are mined to issue to, it's kind of like a reward. Okay, you solved it. Okay, you solved the question, you solved the task. Good, that's your reward. Here, have this Bitcoin. Now, currently, as of today, December 2021, okay, for each block, for each work solved, or for each new block produced, okay, the system rewards the computer that solves the block 6.5 Bitcoins every 10 minutes. So in other words, every 10 minutes, 6.5 Bitcoins are issued, or 6.5 Bitcoins are released to the network, or should I say to the world, okay? 6.5 Bitcoins are released to the world, okay? Now, in addition, in addition to that, validating or creating new blocks, okay, the computers in the network also help to validate transactions. That is to say, if I move some Bitcoin from myself to Mary, okay, remember I said every computer participating has to have a record of that transaction, has to agree that yes, it happened. Now that's what we call validation. Now this network, these computers are validating this network. Okay, as part of what they do, they validate this, they agree that yes, that transaction has happened, that this particular Bitcoin is no longer in my custody, it is now in the custody of Mary, it's no longer in John's custody, it's now in the custody of Mary. They do that, they validate by what we call transaction fees. That is part of what we call transaction fees with the Bitcoin network. Okay, now that's part of what they do. In addition to solving the task to create new blocks, they also validate transactions. As transactions are happening on the network, okay, they validate it. They give it credence, like yes, it happened. So now what we call these computers, okay, on the network that do these tasks, that solve to create new blocks or validate transactions, we call them miners. In the Bitcoin network, we call them miners. Okay, so they are computers, individual computers owned by people in different locations in the world. Okay, and now these computers are not your average computers. Okay, they need for you to be a miner on the Bitcoin network, you need very powerful computers and of course electricity. Okay, so these computers have a very high GPU. Okay, because you're competing with different computers all across the world, and so you need that computing power, very high computing power. And you need to be online. That is to say, your computer needs to be online 24/7 because the Bitcoin network never sleeps. Okay, unlike your banks that go to sleep Monday, you work from Monday to Friday. Bitcoin never sleeps. So the computer has to be on. Okay, in order to validate and to struggle to compete for solving blocks. Okay, so now let's go back to the blocks. Now, like I said, each 10 minutes, the transactions are grouped in a block. Now, once they are grouped, once a new block is produced, okay, and transactions are grouped in it, okay, they are now connected in another 10 minutes, okay, in another 10 minutes, okay, you have another block produced, okay, after, of course, these computers have solved another problem, okay, another block is produced, okay, with transactions in it. Now, these blocks, the earlier block and the new block are linked together with something, with a cryptographic ID, which we call a hash. Forget the technicalities, okay? But just understand that the blocks are linked together. And that's where you get the term blockchain. So they are linked together, forming a chain, a straight chain. It's usually a straight chain, okay? So you have transactions. As the Bitcoin network is going, as the days are going, transactions are being made. And every 10 minutes, they are linked in a block. And then each blocks are linked together. You have the earlier block linked to the following block, and it goes on and goes on like a chain. That's where you get the whole blockchain, the whole blockchain terminology. Okay, so I've just explained Bitcoin. Bitcoin. When I say Bitcoin, I mean the big capital letter Bitcoin. Okay, which is the whole system. Now, the small letter Bitcoin is now the reward if you solve a block I'm going to reward you with Bitcoin, which is a small letter B. Okay, and then also for validating transactions. Okay, for saying yes, this transaction happened. The miners also are also giving some Bitcoin. Okay, I hope we are making sense. Okay, so, but just this is just if it's a little too technical for you, you don't really need to worry as long as you understand how the whole thing works. So this is just about how it happens. Now, another thing to note is that, like I said, miners, those that every 10 minutes, 6.5, I did say 6.5 Bitcoins. Right now, currently, as of now, 6.5 Bitcoins are released, are issued to the miner, okay, or the computer that solved the task that creates a new block. Okay, 6.5 Bitcoins are released. Okay, now, every 4 years, okay, that number changes. Okay, now, every 4 years, that's what we call the Bitcoin halving. Okay, the Bitcoin halving. Now, every 4 years, that reward, that 6.5 reward, okay, is going to be halved. Okay, now, 4 years ago, sorry, 5 years ago, yeah, it was about 13 Bitcoins for every new block mined. That is every 10 minutes. Remember I said every 10 minutes a new Bitcoin block. Right? So every 10 minutes, the miner that solves the task, that wins the block, is giving 13 Bitcoins. So as of last year, May, sometime in May last year, Bitcoin undergoing the Bitcoin halving. So what happens in the halving is that reward for solving blocks is halved. So as of last year, it was halved from 13 Bitcoins to 6.5 Bitcoins. Now, 6.5 Bitcoins, it will continue for another 4 years. That will be 2021, 2022, 2023, and then by 2024 May, it's going to be halved again. That then by 2024 May, maybe the reward for one Bitcoin will be 3, the reward for one block will be 3.25 Bitcoins thereabout. So this is a way of releasing, okay, issuing Bitcoins to the market or to the world, unlike your fiat currency where government just prints anyhow. The release of new Bitcoins to the system or to the world is being controlled that way, and it cannot be changed. Now, another thing you need to know, unlike fiat currencies that are unlimited, okay, they keep printing them unlimited. Now, they can only be 21 million Bitcoins. Now, in the code of Bitcoin, okay, that Satoshi wrote, there can be only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. No more, no less. And then you ask me, okay, so that, but if there are only 21 billion Bitcoins, and Bitcoin was created in 2009, and this is 2021, how many Bitcoins have been issued? As of today, December 2021, about 19 million Bitcoins have been issued already, okay? 19 million Bitcoins are already in circulation. So that leaves about less than 2 million Bitcoins still unissued. So, and I think it's going to take about 40 years for that to happen. Now, don't forget that every 4 years, the amount being issued, okay, the reward for miners is being halved. So I think it will take us till another 40 years for all the Bitcoins to be issued, thereby controlling inflation. It's not good where a whole lot of is just released to the market. It's not good for price. So you see, Bitcoin was modeled, okay, to be deflationary, okay? It was modeled after gold. You see that on the last lecture, we talked about how difficult it is to mine gold. You have to go through, it takes a whole lot of work to mine gold. So the same way, it takes a whole lot of work, computing power to mine Bitcoin. People say Bitcoin is just magic money, it can just be printed. And no, it cannot. For you to mine Bitcoin, you need powerful computers, and then electricity. You need to be on 24 hours, 24/7. So, money is for something to be money. It should not be something that should be easily gotten, So I think Bitcoin tries to be like gold in that manner, okay? Bitcoin tries to, and then it is also scarce. because there can only be 21 million Bitcoins, unlike your fiat currencies that have an unlimited supply, which is of course bad for price, of course, inflation and all that. So this is how Bitcoin works. Now you don't have to worry about the technicalities. When I started dealing, touch Bitcoin, I didn't really understand how it's, I really didn't understand how it worked underneath. So you don't really need to understand. But if you do your, I think if you go online, YouTube, there are other videos, or with time you get to understand how it works underneath. Even if you don't know how it works underneath, you don't, it's not a big problem. It's not a big problem. Now,